Welcome to Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Get ready to dive into the world of nonprofits, where the nerdy passion and unstoppable dedication of those making a real impact is celebrated. Together with your host, Jarrett Ransom, the inspiring stories and game-changing strategies of nonprofit leaders will be explored. Join us to unravel the mysteries of successful fundraising, uncover the secrets to effective advocacy, and nerd out over innovative approaches to solving social challenges. Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed is your go-to podcast for no-nonsense discussions with real-life superheroes of the nonprofit sector. Get ready to unleash your inner nerdiness and discover or rediscover how to change the world together. Now let's dive in and embrace the power of our nerdy side.
Well, hey there, and welcome back to another conversation, Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Not only did I have one guest join me for today's conversation, but two. So father-son duo, Neal and Joey Goone, share some insight about their family dynamics and how they hold each other accountable when it comes to mental health and self-care. They really shared some great insights. So go ahead and have a listen. Again, thank you to both of them for joining me, and thank you to Fundraising Academy at National University for being this season's sponsor. We appreciate you. Well, hey guys, I am really excited. And when I say guys, this is plural because this is the first time I've sat down for this podcast and really had a conversation with two amazing guests. So I want to welcome Neal and Joey and say welcome, to the conversation. Really excited to have the two of you. And I want to start off, I like to dive in from the onset. Neal, I want to start with you if you don't mind. And the question really is, what are some of the names you go by? Who are you? How do you show up in this world? What are some of the titles that you own and the roles that you are proud of?
I guess it depends on which hat I'm wearing, because on the one hand, I love going by OG, which is original grandpa. So in my personal life, whether it's OG or dad, in my work life, I'm just like everyone else. So I just go by my name, Neal. So really depends on the environment that you put me in.
I like that. OG. I might actually refer to you as the OG during this conversation, if that's all right.
Original grandpa. Absolutely. I'm flattered.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Joey, what about you? What are some of the titles, the names, the plates, all of the hats that you wear?
Yeah, so I am a husband to Stephanie. By the way, this is awesome. Second time on your podcast. First time we talked about technical nitty gritty in our company and what we do, and now we're talking about mental health and wellness. And This is awesome. This is right up my alley, by the way. I love it. I'm super excited to unpack this. And for all my fellow gentlemen out there, I think sometimes it's sort of strength in numbers when you hear another person, another man in particular, be vulnerable. So I'm very excited to have that conversation in the name of vulnerability. I am a goon. I am perhaps Neal and I might be the only literal goons that you know, but maybe not the only figurative ones. I'm a husband to Stephanie. I'm a dad to Sage. We have a 17-month-old. I'm a son to Neal, who's joining us today on this conversation. I am a brother to Mark in LA and Melissa in Chicago. And I think I'm a cousin and a friend now to very few, because as we get older, that intimate circle grows smaller and smaller, and a cousin and now an uncle, which is cool. Very cool.
That is so cool. Yeah, I want to really tip my hat because not only do I have two guests, this is a father-son duo, and really thrilled to have the two of you here. Joey, I want to tap back into what you just said, really for all of the gentlemen listening, for all of the guys and mental health. And before we even recorded, I feel like we were getting into the nitty gritty a little bit about how I really honor the voice of the men's perspective. That is not a voice that I can speak of, obviously as a woman. How is that showing up still in today's world? How is vulnerability and mental health showing up? And then Neal, I would love for you, after Joey shares, if you're willing to share any insight of how you've seen this evolution over your years of business.
Oh, I'd love to. I don't know if you want me to attack that first or Joey.
Yeah, Joey, why don't you tell us like what you're seeing today, and then Neal, let's have you chime in after that.
Yeah, so I can only speak from my own personal experience, and it's never really been a challenge for me to be vulnerable because I think my dad can speak to this too, but that was something that was, my dad is vulnerable in private. He's the type of person who doesn't necessarily wear his emotions on his sleeve, but when you have a conversation with my dad one-on-one or in small intimate settings, he's a very vulnerable, very emotional person. So that's something that has always been recognized and invited in my home environment, in my familial environment, in my background from a very young age. It was instilled in me. So it's never really been something that has been foreign. And I think a lot of people grow up, and same with my mom, who's unfortunately no longer with us. She passed away a couple of years ago to cancer, but she was also very emotional, perhaps outwardly emotional, more so than my dad and even myself and my siblings. And she also recognized that as a superpower in people. So it's never really been something that's been foreign to me. I think the problem in society, and this is me just pontificating or having an opinion, is that we care so much about what other people think, and we're so scared of protecting ourselves based on other people's opinions and expectations, beliefs and behaviors, that we don't ever truly live to our fullest potential because we're so concerned about how others might perceive us. And so when I let go of that fear and that insecurity, so much opportunity opened up for me in my life. It just became more clear on how I needed to be and who I needed to be. And ultimately, it 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 helped me reconcile with the fact that I don't need to be perfect or put on a performance. I just need to be authentic.
How cool is that? And Neal, I mean, I want to say, I hope you heard that huge compliment that your son just gave you publicly, if he's never told you privately, but I have a feeling Joey has told you privately as well. Can you speak to the point of, maybe what Joey just said, but also maybe how you've seen this conversation change? Because you've got just a few years over Joey on this.
Just one.
Yeah, just a couple. Well, I would say, I came from a corporate environment long before I was involved in our own, family business. So coming from a corporate environment, that is the type of work world that really inhibits vulnerability. It's extremely competitive. Showing vulnerability is associated with weakness and to some degree. So now being in this environment where I think, my motto that I heard, I wish I could say I came up with this, but I didn't. If you love what you do, it's not work. And so that's the way I approach my everyday life is I love what I do. So I never really feel like I am so encumbered by work that I just can't get away from it because I love what I do. I love being with my family. But I enjoy what I do, and I have a greater appreciation for what I do now because I've escaped that corporate world, and I'm now applying my talents where I feel they best fit. And so for me, vulnerability is really just being, to Joey's point, being authentic, being myself, being open. And I work every day with Joey's help on not being defensive and accepting criticism and being more vulnerable and open to those I work with, as well as family and personal relationships.
Can I piggyback off of that? I think something needs to be said here. I think the most powerful thing you can do if you're listening to this is to accept radical responsibility for mistakes that you make. Own them. Nothing upsets me more as an owner of a company than an employee or a partner or a colleague or a friend who's not vulnerably strong and outwardly confident enough to say, you know what, I messed up. And here's the lesson that we're going to learn from that. So, for anyone listening today who needs to hear that, know that it's more powerful to be vulnerable and to be open and to accept that you made a mistake than the alternative, which makes you seem so much weaker.
Yeah, that's solid advice, Joey. Thank you for adding that. And I remember you sharing with me about your mother's story, and I just connected with her so deeply when you said, she was an outward emotion person, and that is certainly me as well. I've always heard like you wear your emotions on your sleeve. My son now, who's 13, he'll be like, Mom, are you crying again? And I'm like, yes, I'm either happy, I'm frustrated, I'm really angry. Like, it just comes out of me kind of in that perspective, or in that way, I guess. My dad was he was a strong man, but a soft teddy bear, right, to his core, especially in that one-on-one. And my mom, similar to me, was very outward with her emotions. Also, Joey, before we jumped on, you were sharing about how like you are in the thick of a travel season right now. Would you be willing to share a little bit about how you are navigating for yourself, your mental health, in addition to juggling the travel, the commitments? Because I think you have some really good insight to share there.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. So just to give context, the backstory is that our team has done something to the tune of 20 events in 8 states over the last 30 to 40 days. And the only way that I can properly give it the recognition and the love that it deserves over, like, for our team and what we just accomplished and the partners we've worked with, is to pull sort of a moniker from, or more of a modality or a thought process from Matthew Kelly's book Off Balance. And he talks about the work-life balance myth and how it is a myth, because when you find something that you love, you pour so much into that thing, it should pour into you as well. And when you find the thing, when you're done at the end of the sprint or the marathon in our case, you
Yeah.
should feel like, maybe you feel burnt out in a moment, but afterwards, when you think back at what you just accomplished, it should fill your cup so much more that it motivates you to go further, faster with your team because of what you just accomplished. And so that's how I would describe. And as I'm reflecting on what happened over the last month, that's how I'm feeling. You know, I go back to 3 days ago. I was in Jersey with our client, Early Learning Leaders, producing their 3.5 day conference, and I just started crying with them, and I don't know why. I have no idea. It just hit me. There was this emotion, like a full circle moment, because they saw me speaking at an event a year ago. After that speaking engagement, they hired us to come out and produce their conference in 2024. And there we were. And that moment was like this full circle moment. And I just lost it and started bawling. I'm like, oh my God, we're here. You trusted us. Like, and and I think those moments are the moments that make it all worth it. When I reflect back, I'm like, yes, I was stressed physically, mentally, and emotionally, but the moments of shared community where our hearts were opened and we were just connecting on a real, visceral, raw human level, like, that makes the entire experience worth it. And I didn't share just those moments with our clients. We shared those moments with exhibitors, with speakers, with my team members. Like, we cried, we laughed, we were high-fiving. And so having those moments of authenticity where you're able to just step back for a moment and reflect on all of the good work that you're doing, that we were doing in that space, it just makes it so rewarding. And so today is my mental health day, and it couldn't be any more like serendipitous and ironic
Comes
that we're
together.
having this conversation today.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I feel guilty that you're here if it's your mental health day. Like, oh my gosh, that we probably should have rescheduled, but
No. I got to I meditated this morning. I did yoga. I cut the grass, which is cathartic for me, just being outside, smelling the fresh cut grass clippings. My dad can talk about that and go on for days. That was my first company, is cut the local yard boy at 9 years old. Um, Amazing that the work back then now still feels like cathartic and enjoyable. And then after this, I
yeah.
get to spend the afternoon with my wife and my daughter, and we're gonna roll around in the basement and have a bunch of fun. So this is super
Oh,
cool
fun.
to talk about mental health, and I actually then get to experience it all day today and tomorrow.
Well, good. I appreciate that perspective. Neal, are you a yogi? Joey mentioned some of the things that he goes to for self-care and relaxation. What are some of the things, Neal, that you gravitate towards? Are some of the resources that you have used over your life to really support you in finding a balance or a blend between all of the amazing things you get to do professionally and personally, and now adding that OG title, because I hear being a grandparent is like the mecca of all meccas.
I had heard that as well prior to being a grandparent, and it
Yeah.
kind of would flow in one ear and out the other. Yeah, being a grandparent is great. I heard the stories. And now that I'm there, I will tell you it is 1,000 times better than I ever could have expected. So it is everything that people say, and more. And I would also say, in terms of my personal release, mental health is really music. Music relaxes me. I find, I wish I had the talent to be a musician, but I don't. So it probably gives me a keener appreciation for those that do. And I really, music certainly reduces stress levels, reading, just walking, getting outside, exercising, taking care of myself, being conscious of diet. Those are the things that keep me aligned. But most of all, what keeps me aligned is my family and my responsibility to my family and kids to just be there, whether I'm needed, whether it's just to listen, provide advice. Being around people is my gratification, whether it's my family, the people I work with, that fills my cup.
Really cool. Joey, tell us about Utopia Experience. Tell us about the business. Tell us about your role, Neal's role. Is there other family involved? What all is included here at this amazing company?
Yeah, so Utopia Experience is an event planning and event production company that was the brainchild of my late mother, Neal's late wife, Jody. She started it in 2002. The impetus behind the company was to start a really radical and rad entertainment company. It has since gravitated more towards the event planning and production side, producing big strategic assembly type conferences, galas, fundraising events, etc. When it comes to the nepotism factor, absolutely. It is myself. It is Neal. Chase is our chief morale officer. He is my wife and my first child. That's our Cavachon, our puppy. So my wife is our chief marketing officer. She manages our marketing team. And Sage is our 17-month-old that is the newest employee at Utopia. She is also the morale booster. She just walks the hallways and says hello and what is this to everybody at Utopia. She'll just walk up and down the hallways every day. We bring her in every once in a while on Tuesdays, and she gets to greet and hang out with all the other Utopia team members. So it's really cool.
Okay, so my dog is currently at my feet, and she just looked at me like, how do I get that chief morale officer title? This is not fair.
Chase's bio is actually on our website. It's super cute. I think it's that was one of the last bios that I wrote before ChatGPT started writing everything. But if you go on the website, I think you'd get a kick out of reading Chase's bio. It's
Okay, I will have to do that. And I might actually read it aloud to my shelter dog, who is my shadow. Neal, I want to ask you, so Joey just shared about the company and everyone that's involved. I'd love to know how you and Joey in particular hold each other accountable for mental health and self-care, and to say like, hey, Joey, you've been on the road now for 22, days, and maybe you were with him, I'm not sure, but like, how does this show up? How does accountability show up really for the two of you?
For me, I don't have to say too much in terms of accountability, in terms of work responsibility, because Joey's possessed. So, um, and he has personally built the company from what it once was when we started out to what it is today, which is quite honestly fivefold from where it was. So in terms of work accountability, not really necessary. Personal accountability is a whole different story. So knowing that Joey loves to read, I make sure that when birthdays, Christmas occasions arise, my gifts to him are generally books that I feel that will tap into. As an example, I think it was his birthday, his last birthday, I gave him two books. One was on work culture, and developing that culture within the work environment, communications with employees, etc. And the other book was really about valuing family time. So in terms of accountability, I know Joey's going to read those books, and I know because he's a bookworm and gets so much out of his reading that he's going to comprehend every word that he reads. So my accountability is to try and at some point get Joey to take a step back. And he's pretty good about that himself, but he is possessed. So I try and get him on occasion to take a step back, smell the roses, really appreciate his accomplishments, not only in work, but in his family life, and what he's doing on the home front, because they're great partners to each other, him and his wife, and they are unbelievable parents. I knew they were unbelievable parents just off of how they've trained their dog, but watching the development of their child is incredible. So that's my accountability factor, is just making sure Joey appreciates and takes a step back to enjoy his life.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
Joey,
man.
what about you with your dad, Neal, as well as Stephanie, if you're able to share or willing to share about that? Like, how do you hold your team and your family accountable so that they're taking care of themselves as well?
Yeah, I think that for on the home front with my wife, we've had very similar or parallel journeys when it comes to personal and professional development. We're both very much into I actually have Hal's book right here. We're both miracle morning practitioners. I love Hal. Hal actually personally mentored and coached me for 2 years. I love this man to death. So his whole thing is the savers. So every single morning it's silence, affirmate. So silence would be meditation for 10 minutes, affirmations, verbal affirmations, which we now do with our daughter, which has just been fantastic. Visualization, just visualizing and manifesting where you are and where you want to be. And it's really focusing and looking at like the best of where we are, where we were, and where we're headed, instead of deficit based, which is a lot of people have a tendency to look at what's broken, what's wrong, and what's missing. Then there's, so that's and then the E is exercise. We exercise every day together. Today we're going to go for a nice walk. It's a nice 70 degrees out. Then reading and scribing. Now my scribing, I used to scribe to myself and do like journal entries every day. Now I actually write love notes to my daughter. And so I'll be on the road and telling her in this little journal how much I miss her and how much I love her. And these are things that at some point in the future, maybe in 10 years or in 50 years when I'm gone, she'll be able to look back at these love notes that I've written her. And so when it comes to the personal and professional development, my wife and I have, again, just similar journeys there. When it comes to accountability, I'd say that's something that I really need to be better at. I've largely been a yes man. And while this can sometimes be looked at as a good thing, it's also been a detriment to my own personal energy and well-being. And so that means like when I have a client that calls or a partner or a team member that needs me to do a thing, whatever the thing is, I always have a tendency of sacrificing my own personal protected time. And that's something that, to my dad's point a moment ago, that I really need to work on and compartmentalize, I guess if that would be the right way to describe it, work in an area and park it for a while so that I can focus on me, my well-being, because the more I pour into me, the more I can pour into Stephanie and Sage.
Yeah. I am just as guilty of that, Joey. I will put my workout on my calendar. I will put a massage on my calendar. I will put whatever, the things that I find valuable to take care of me. And often when I get a request and I think, well, I don't know where else it's going to fit. So I'll just move my nail appointment to another time, or I'll move the massage appointment to another time, because those are easy to reschedule. So I feel you on that and can empathize, right, with having that as something that we desire to work on. You both have dropped so many amazing nuggets of information. I am so sad because our time has flown by. I want to ask one final question to the two of you to answer separately. What are you going to do next for fun, and or do you have a vacation coming up that you're looking forward to? So Neal, what about you?
Well, yeah, we do have a vacation coming up. Actually, a couple. One, we are traveling together to Chicago to visit my daughter, Joey's sister. and her boyfriend. And a little further down the road, we are together as a family going to Cayman, just to relax, enjoy the water, the beach, the sun. So yeah, that is the ultimate in terms of vacation. But I also live by the premise that every day is to be appreciated. And I don't let that go by without appreciating the moment, living in the moment, rather than just anticipating what's next, what's on the horizon, where are we headed, what's the next vacation. I cherish those moments. I look forward to them, but I don't ever look past the given moment, and appreciating living in the moment and enjoying the time that you have. It flies. Life goes by so fast. So to not live in the moment and appreciate what you have in the current and always looking forward, I would feel terribly guilty and probably would not have as much gratification for the life that I currently have if I were constantly always looking forward and not living in the moment.
Great advice. Joey, what about you?
Yeah. So, like Dad said, headed to Chicago next month, and actually headed to Nashville next week. We're doing we have a conference in Nashville, which I'm super jazzed about. This is a really cool.
That is hardly a vacation.
Well, it's kind of sort of a vacation in that I enjoy traveling with our team. I don't, for whatever reason, it psychs me up. I get energy from it because I know I get to travel with, like, we've created a culture where everyone in the company is like a best friend and a family member, a person that you genuinely want to spend time with. And so when we travel, it's like I'm traveling with a group of my family members or best friends, which is really enjoyable. Now the work can be stressful, but we all figure it out, and we always do. And it's really fun coming together and solving these really intricate problems. And at the end of the day, we're like, wow, we made this happen. It's really awesome. So I'm looking forward to
And
that.
celebrate that.
Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward to Cayman. And yeah. Looking forward to my time with the family today. That's vacation for me, is just going for a 3-mile, 4-mile walk outside on this beautiful day with pushing my daughter in the stroller and my wife beside me. Dad, you're more than
That
welcome to
sounds
join us on that walk.
Thanks. I have one closing thought that I just wanted to add. A
Yes,
little
please,
bit more
Neal.
of a personal touch and nothing that you asked about. But last night, Joey and I had a very brief conversation because I don't do podcasts and Joey does them every 30 minutes. So he advised me that this is a podcast that goes by very quick. So make sure your answers are very short, to the point, and keep it moving. I can't wait to play this back to time my answers as opposed to Joey's because he advised me to be very direct and to the point, and I've tried to do that, and I can't wait to listen back to this to advise Joey.
Oh my gosh. I love the accountability here. I mean, that is
I'm
twice now,
saying.
Neal, that you have
Hey,
called
we
Joey
can
on the
keep that.
carpet. So I can only imagine how this shows up at work, at family dinners, at holidays. So, and Joey, also back to you, my friend. You were the one that said, you know what? Let's bring my dad on with me. Let's do this together. So again, thank you to both of you. Our time has gone so fast, and I'm so appreciative because together and individually, that was a big word to say, you guys have both really shared some great insights, and I'm so thankful. Joey, for everyone that wants to learn more about Utopia Experience, where should we connect with you and your team and learn more?
Yeah, go to utopiaexperience.com. You can find more information about us there. And if you search for Joey Goone on LinkedIn, you'll find me, because I don't think there are that many goons.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate you sharing your time and your insights.
Thank you
Thank
so
for
much.
sharing
Nice
and
to be
having
here.
us on board.